This one scientific fact will quietly but fundamentally break your understanding of reality, and it has nothing to do with distant galaxies, quantum particles, or futuristic technology. It begins inside your own head. Right now, as you're listening to these words, you feel like you're directly experiencing the world as it is, as if reality is simply entering your senses and appearing in your mind. But neuroscience tells us something far more unsettling and fascinating. You never experience reality itself. You experience a prediction. Your brain does not passively record the world like a camera. It actively constructs a model of reality in real time, filling in gaps, correcting errors, and sometimes completely fabricating what you believe is true. This single fact, supported by decades of neuroscience, psychology, and biology, changes everything about how you understand perception, consciousness, stress, fear, confidence, weakness, and even free will. Your brain is not a window to the world. It is a simulator. Every sound you hear, every color you see, every emotion you feel is the result of an internal system running predictions faster than you can notice. The outside world provides raw signals, incomplete and noisy, and your brain turns those signals into a coherent experience. Vision is a perfect example. The image that reaches your retina is upside down, fragmented, and full of blind spots. Yet you never notice this. Your brain edits, stabilizes, and predicts what should be there. You don't see with your eyes. You see with your brain. And the same is true for pain, pleasure, fear, and even your sense of self. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes perfect sense. The brain did not evolve to show you the truth. It evolved to keep you alive. Accuracy is optional. Survival is not. If a slightly distorted perception increases your chances of living, your brain will choose distortion every time. This is where perception becomes deeply linked to stress and adaptation. Under stress, your brain changes how it predicts reality. When you are anxious, neutral signals are interpreted as threats. A harmless sound becomes danger. A vague facial expression becomes rejection. The world feels sharper, louder, and more hostile, not because it changed, but because your brain adjusted its model to protect you. This is not weakness. This is an ancient survival algorithm. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, plays a central role here. Every repeated thought strengthens a neural pathway. Every repeated fear trains the brain to predict danger more quickly next time. The brain is a system that learns patterns relentlessly. It does not care whether those patterns are true. It cares whether they are useful. This is where the metaphor of the brain as a system becomes powerful. Think of the brain as a complex signal processing network. The human body is an energy network, constantly exchanging information with the environment. Thoughts are signals moving through this network, altering its structure as they pass. Stress is not just an emotional state. It is a biological signal telling the system to reallocate resources. Blood flow shifts, hormones surge, attention narrows. Memory prioritizes threat. In these moments, the brain sacrifices accuracy for speed. And this is where many people misunderstand themselves. When you feel overwhelmed, unfocused, or emotionally numb, you might think something is wrong with you. But from a neuroscientific perspective, your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It is protecting you by reducing complexity. It is simplifying reality so you can survive it. Here comes the twist that most people never realize. The moments when you feel weakest, the moments when your mind feels foggy, slow, or disconnected, are often the moments when your brain is working the hardest behind the scenes. Dissociation, emotional shutdown, and mental fatigue are not signs of failure. They are emergency protocols. The brain has limits. When incoming signals exceed those limits, it reduces sensitivity. This is not giving up, this is regulation. In biology, systems that cannot regulate collapse. The brain regulates by changing perception. This means that reality itself, as you experience it, is flexible. Not in a mystical sense, but in a biological one. Two people can stand in the same room and experience entirely different realities because their brains are running different predictive models. This is why trauma reshapes perception so deeply. A traumatic event teaches the brain that the world is unsafe. From that point on, the brain predicts danger even when none exists. The individual is not broken. Their system is calibrated to a past signal. And because of neuroplasticity, this calibration can change, but only through new experiences and new predictions repeated over time. This leads to a profound philosophical implication. If reality is a construction, then certainty becomes fragile. What you feel most sure about may simply be the strongest prediction your brain has learned. Confidence is not always clarity. Sometimes it is just repetition, and doubt is not always weakness. Sometimes it is the system updating itself. The idea of human limitation takes on a new meaning here. Limits are not just barriers. They are filters. Your brain limits what you can perceive in order to make action possible. If you perceived everything, you would be paralyzed. So the brain compresses reality, edits it, and hands you a simplified version labeled now. This is why time itself feels strange. Neuroscience shows that the brain does not experience time continuously. It chunks experience into moments, stitching them together into a narrative. The present moment is not a point. It is a construction that lags behind reality by a fraction of a second. You are always living slightly in the past, inside a simulation optimized for survival. Quantum metaphors become interesting here, not because the brain uses quantum mechanics in a literal sense, but because uncertainty and probability are central to both. The brain is constantly weighing probabilities, choosing the most likely interpretation of incoming signals. Reality, as you know it, is the most statistically convenient story your brain can tell itself. This has enormous consequences for how you understand fear, motivation, and growth. When you avoid something because it feels threatening, it may not be because the thing is dangerous, but because your brain's model predicts pain. When you feel resistance to change, it is not laziness. It is a system protecting stability. Change requires updating predictions, and prediction errors are metabolically expensive. The brain consumes a massive amount of energy. Efficiency matters. This is why habits are powerful. They reduce uncertainty, but this is also why growth feels uncomfortable. Growth forces the brain to revise its model of reality. From a scientific standpoint, personal transformation is not about becoming stronger in a motivational sense. It is about teaching the brain that a new model is safe. This reframes the idea of weakness completely. What you label as weakness may be sensitivity. What you label as fear may be intelligence detecting uncertainty. What you label as failure may be the system learning through error. The brain learns more from mistakes than from success because mistakes generate prediction errors, and prediction errors drive learning. Without error, there is no update. This is why stress in moderate amounts is not harmful. It signals importance. It tells the brain, this matters. Pay attention. Chronic stress becomes damaging only when the system never returns to baseline, when the brain is stuck predicting threat everywhere. Even then, the problem is not that the brain is malfunctioning. The problem is that it has learned too well from the wrong environment. When you understand this, compassion replaces judgment, both for yourself and for others. Every human behavior becomes a signal of an underlying model trying to survive. Anger is a boundary signal. Anxiety is a future simulation running out of control. Depression can be understood as a system conserving energy when predictions about reward collapse. These are not moral failures. They are biological strategies. This does not mean we are prisoners of our brains. Neuroplasticity means the system remains adaptable. But adaptation requires repetition, safety, and time. Just as the brain learned its current model, it can learn a new one. The key is not forcing positivity, but providing new data. Small, consistent experiences that contradict old predictions gradually reshape perception. This is slow because the brain values stability over truth. And that brings us back to the original scientific fact that breaks reality. You do not live in the world. You live in your brain's best guess of the world. Reality, as you experience it, is not discovered. It is generated. This does not make life meaningless. It makes it profoundly interactive. You are both the observer and part of the system being observed. Your thoughts are not just reactions. They are inputs. They feed back into the system, altering future predictions. This is not mystical. It is biological feedback. When you repeatedly interpret a challenge as survivable, the brain updates its threat model. When you repeatedly recover from stress, resilience emerges not as a trait, but as a learned prediction. This is why knowledge alone does not change people. Experience does. The brain trusts what happens more than what is said. Philosophically, this dissolves the idea of a single objective human reality. There is a shared physical world, yes, but the lived experience of that world is deeply personal and biologically constructed. Understanding this does not mean rejecting science or truth. It means recognizing that science itself is a tool for correcting our brain's flawed intuitions. It gives us instruments to see beyond our internal simulations. And yet, even science must pass through the brain to be understood. This creates a beautiful paradox. We use a reality-generating system to study reality itself. The system can never fully step outside itself, but it can become aware of its own limits. That awareness is where wisdom begins. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, uncertain, or disconnected, remember this. Your brain is not betraying you. It is protecting you with the tools it has learned. And those tools can change. The most dangerous idea is not that reality is fragile. It is that it feels solid when it isn't. The most liberating idea is not that you can control everything, but that your experience is more flexible than you think. If your brain can construct fear, it can also construct safety. If it can learn threat, it can learn resilience. The scientific fact is simple, but its implications are vast. Reality, as you know it, is a controlled hallucination shaped by biology, experience, and survival. And once you truly understand that, you can never see yourself or the world the same way again. So here's the question to leave you with. If your experience of reality is a prediction, not a recording, what predictions are you reinforcing every day without realizing it? Think about it, share your thoughts in the comments, and if this way of seeing the mind sparks something new for you, like the video, subscribe to MindSpark Science and join us as we keep exploring the hidden mechanisms shaping human reality.